Command229 here, another Topic of the Week video. And this week I'm going to be talking about fandom's weird reactions to kid characters. At least in terms of treating them negatively. This week's topic was submitted by Just Absolutely Super, and her topic is: children in cartoons or other forms of media often get criticized and bashed by fans whenever they make a mistake, whether it's big or small. What are your thoughts on this? What would you consider called for when criticizing a fictional child? Yeah, I've seen this number of times. In fact, the biggest time, probably one of the most ridiculous instances I've seen of this would have to be Mabel in Gravity Falls. Spoiler for Seasons 2 of Gravity Falls. Alright, so, in Gravity Falls, near the end of the show, what kicks off the finale, the Weirdmageddon finale, is Bill Cipher manipulates Mabel into assisting him. I've seen a lot of people bash Mabel as like this complete moron. She's worthless, idiotic, or even evil. The Gravity Falls fandom can be really weird sometimes. But what blows me away is the lack of empathy. Because in context, it's easy to understand why Mabel was being so easy to be manipulated. First of all, we have to remember that Bill Cipher is like some ageless chaos demon, whatever. And he's pretty good at manipulating people. He manipulated Ford, who's arguably one of the smartest people on the planet, and arguably one of the smartest people in the multiverse, probably. And he played Ford like a fiddle. But a 12-year-old girl, Ford, okay, it's understandable that Ford was manipulated, but a 12-year-old girl, it seems so weird to me to act like Mabel should have seen right through this. Because he came to her, she thought it was Blandon. Blended. Alright, they know Blendon. Sure, it may have been weird, but you also have to remember that she was kind of emotionally distressed at the time. Because during this time, she's thinking that Dipper is going to just completely cut ties with her and do his own thing. I mean, they're twins, and they've been joined at the hip since birth. So, separating is kind of hard. And Mabel, we've seen this throughout the show, where Mabel constantly wants to do stuff with Dipper. And he's always been a little bit more hesitant because he's kind of precocious and he wants to appear more adult, particularly when it comes to, impressing adults or very much impressing Wendy, because he wants to be older than he actually is. So sometimes he would drop stuff that they've done before, like the matching Halloween costumes, because he doesn't want to seem childish. So that actual aspect of the show has been built up since season 1. So this coming to, a seeming head of him possibly leaving and or staying with Ford and doing all sorts of research and stuff. Well, yeah, Mabel's a little bit upset at the possibility of, not being with Dipper like normal. And she's really not ready for that. I mean, she's 12. So she's an emotional wreck at this point, and she's very upset. And they're turning 13, they're going to be entering teenage years, so there's a lot of change going on, and she's not ready for that. So then Bill Cipher comes in right at this moment and manipulates her into giving him I think it was like the little, the snow globe of like interdimensional tears or whatever. I don't remember the specific details of that. It's been a while since I watched Gravity Falls, but yeah, he manipulates her into giving him that. And I've seen so many people hate Mabel for this. And I'm like, why? Yeah, she made a mistake, but how is she supposed to understand that? She's a kid. It seems so weird because it feels like there's just no empathy for her in that regard. And another instance is, and Mabel did end up coming around. She had a little bit of an arc during the Weirdmageddon finale, but, people tend to ignore a lot of those details. Now, another big one is Aang. Now, Aang in Avatar: The Last Airbender gets mistreated a lot by the fandom, and basically it amounts to he's a good guy. So anytime he does anything even slightly wrong, he could breathe wrong, and the fandom will, parts of the fandom will crucify him for it. Particularly if they ship Zuko and Katara. And it, again, blows me away. Another 12-year-old boy. Or another 12-year-old. And he's got the world on his shoulders. He's the Avatar. He was told far earlier than he normally would have been. You know, considering the typical thing with the Avatars. And there are a couple of times where he makes mistakes. And even times when he doesn't make mistakes that people in the fandom will crucify him for. Okay, when Sokka and Katara get the letter from... finding out about their father, Aang initially hides this. This is a mistake. This is wrong. And the message is, yeah, it is wrong. He does realize this. But I've seen people in the Avatar fandom actually hate Aang and hold this against him for the rest of the show. And it kind of blows my mind. Especially when they give Zuko a pass for all the horrible things he's done. He has a great arc, don't get me wrong. I love Zuko as a character, but to pretend like Zuko never did anything wrong, he was trying to capture the Avatar for a while. You know, some kidnappings, you know, burning down villages. You know, it's okay, but, you know, Aang holding that letter, that's the truly bad thing. And that's really what gets me about this, is the odd double standard. And you see this a lot anyway with, like, good characters versus bad characters. Because you see, like, with Goku in Dragon Ball and Vegeta. Goku, anytime he does something even slightly wrong, people in the fandom will hold it against him and treat him as, like, literally the most evil person in the galaxy. But Vegeta, who's gone around on murderous rampages before, he gets praised for even doing something slightly right. And yes, it's great to see his character develop, but when you crucify Goku for very, very minute things, and even blame him for things that aren't his fault, but then Vegeta gets the free pass for all of the horrible things he's ever done, it's ridiculous. But going back to Aang. Yes, the episode showed that Aang was wrong with this, because when Katara and Sokka found out, they were not particularly happy. They were going to go off and, you know, try to find their dad. Now they ultimately realized, we want to find your dad, but helping the Avatar save the world might be a bit higher in the priorities. Ultimately, had he shown them the letter at the beginning, they would have ultimately chosen to stay with him anyway. But we have to think of this in context. With Aang's backstory, we know he had a really hard time when he was announced as the Avatar, because all of his friends would basically abandon him. He was suddenly treated as an other, isolated from them, because he couldn't play games with them because, it's unfair to have the Avatar there. And so even though nothing changed about him, he was treated so differently. But in the real big thing, the real thing that really triggered a lot of issues with him, was when the monks wanted to separate him from Monk Gyatso, a man who was basically like his father. So this is the one person who Aang just absolutely adores. He's basically his father. And then that's what caused him to run away, finding out that he'd be separated from the man who basically raised him and was his mentor. Just so that he could because, he was the Avatar. And then, after all of that, when he wakes up after his 100-year sleep in the ice, he finds out that his entire people have been genocided. He is the last airbender. So you can understand why, after he makes this connection with Sokka and Katara, that he might be hesitant to give them, something that would basically inspire them to go off somewhere else and leave him alone. He's got a few issues. He's still treated as a mistake. It's not like everything completely wipes him. It's not like the show goes out of his way to try to say, no, Aang was totally right to hide that. No, he gets yelled at, and Sokka and Katara get angry at him, and it's of their own choices that they go back to stay with him, realizing that, yeah, helping the Avatar save the world is a very big priority because, it's saving the world. But I see so many people get angry at Aang for this. Or later on during in Book 3 when during the episode The Ember Island Players, when Aang kisses Katara and tries to kiss Katara, and people get angry at him over that, saying, oh, why is he doing that? Okay, yes, there's a war going on, but he got some mixed signals from Katara. Not her fault. She's also a kid, and there's also a lot going on. But to treat it as if Aang is like some horrible person because of this, or I've even seen people accuse him being a sexual assaulter who abuses Katara. Certain shippers are the ones who say that stuff, but that still is said, and it's utterly ridiculous. Because we have to look back at stuff like The Cave of Two Lovers. Oh, well, both of them wanted to kiss then. During the Day of the Black Invasion, not too long earlier, he kissed her, she returned it. And so when he tries to do another move, is it a bad time? Yeah, they're trying to take a break from the the war going on, and we're going into the finale, of where Aang has to fight Ozai, one of the most powerful people on the planet at that time. So yeah, there's a lot going on. But to treat it as if Aang is evil for this, Aang beats himself up over it because he was like, oh, that was so stupid. Well, yeah, they probably should have been discussing this after the fact. They probably should have talked about this more, but they're kids. I don't think that's something to call him an evil monster for. And it frustrates me because you see kids in media held to a higher standard than I've even seen them hold adults, the fandoms hold adults to. And I'm like, well, why? Why are you so mean to the kids? And just, another one is the in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, where when the dinosaurs are, at the end of the movie, when the dinosaurs are being gassed and are going to die, the adults think about this and they think, well, we could let this is cruel. I mean, you're watching these animals, these dinosaurs, die, and they could release them to save them, but then they're like, well, logically, it's an emotional decision, but logically, should probably let them die because this is going to cause a lot of trouble. And then the little girl, the other clone, who sympathizes with the dinosaurs because, she's a clone much like them, releases them. And I see so many people get so angry that the kid did this. Well, and it's so funny because when I was watching the movie, I didn't want the adults to do that because they're more rational. They can understand that, yeah, letting a bunch of dinosaurs out into the wild might not be the best decision, but if it was going to happen, it would have to be the kid, and then the kid did it. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Is it a mistake? Probably. But it's easy to understand why the kid did that, because she sympathizes with them. And she's a kid. She's more prone to making an emotional decision than a logical one, because she's what, 12? I don't remember exactly how old she was, but she was a kid. 10, 12, or whatever, around that age. And it just seems so weird when I see people get so angry at her for doing this, because the adults decide not to open the gates and let the dinosaurs out, but the kid does. And then some people will even say that the movie is trying to say that, the adults are wrong. No, it's kind of left really up to your interpretation, if I'm being perfectly honest. Is it a right decision? Yeah, you could say, from a humane perspective, you can say, yeah, you know, not letting them die. Or you can also make a very logical decision, like, it's probably safer that we don't let dinosaurs out. And I think there's a reason, yeah, I think there's enough to discuss with that. You can talk about that and saying, is it right, is it wrong? But to treat the kid as some sort of vile monster for it, which I have seen some people do, it bugs me. And this is like, there's this weird thing with a lot of people, particularly adults. Adults always do this. They get angry that the kid characters aren't the most rational and logical people. Well, yeah, because they're kids. And when it comes to kids making mistakes, if they do something extremely horrible, I mean, like, something that they would have to but it's like, I think, to be honest, what I would have to consider called for and justified in criticizing a kid character is if they understand what they're doing and they understand the consequences, because a lot of times kids don't really think about the consequences, because when you're 10 years old, you're not going to be thinking about the consequences of the world with everything. But if they understand something and they do it anyway, yeah, okay. If they're just being a dick, like, you look at Dudley from Harry Potter. The kid's an absolute nightmare. Yeah, that's completely uncalled for because he's a brat who's spoiled by his parents, and the reason why he's so awful is because he's raised by awful people. Okay, yeah, that's what I called for in saying, yeah, you're a terrible person. But a kid just making a mistake, especially when these mistakes would oftentimes be forgiven in someone else, especially if they're older. It's like, why do you lack the ability to sympathize for a character who's a younger, but then go out of your way and oftentimes justifying far worse deeds of people who are older and worse people? Maybe not even outright evil, but just bad. It's a bit of an odd double standard. It's frustrating because it feels like a lot of people don't actually think about this. Like, they make a ridiculously emotional decision saying, oh, well, I don't like what this kid character did, so they're evil. And then there's this little 10-year-old licking an ice cream and like, yeah, kid, you're evil. A lot of times it comes down to context and thinking, why is this kid making that decision? Why is the kid making a mistake? Like, it's weird attitudes in the fandom, and I find it rather annoying. Well, I think that's about it for this topic. If you want to submit a topic to me, you can comment below. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Tumblr, send me an ask with topic : whatever topic you want me to talk about. Or if you're on the Discord, you can go into the topic submissions channel and submit a topic there. Just make sure to follow the rules I'll be posting down below. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, you can check that out here. I want to get that done. So what are your thoughts on this? What kid characters do you think were treated unfairly by the fandom? Please comment below. And thank you for watching.